Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 2726 as amended to require the Secretary of the Treasury to mint commemorative coins in recognition of the 50th anniversary of the first manned landing on the moon.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 2726, a bill to require the Secretary of the Treasury to mint commemorative coins in recognition of the 50th anniversary of the first manned landing on the moon.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Posey, and the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Velasquez, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on this bill.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I also ask for unanimous consent that the exchange of letters between the committees of jurisdiction be included in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of H.R. 2726, the Apollo 11 50th Anniversary Commemorative Coin Act, which I introduced along with my colleague from Florida, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. This has been a truly bipartisan endeavor with 298 total co-sponsors. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy challenged the nation with the following words: "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." That famous speech launched the Apollo program, but more importantly, it galvanized our nation and united us into accomplishing perhaps the greatest technological achievement in human history. And it was truly a national undertaking. An estimated 400,000 men and women from across the United States contributed to the effort. Components of the Saturn V rocket, command and service module, and lunar landing module, and other critical parts were literally manufactured from every state in the Union: Huntsville, Alabama, to Seal Beach, California; New Orleans, Louisiana, to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and everywhere in between. On July 16, 1969, a mere 8 years after the first American, Alan Shepard, traveled into space, a Saturn V rocket blasted off from Merritt Island, Florida, and raced to the moon. 4 days later, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the lunar surface as Michael Collins stood watch. This legislation commemorates our nation's commitment to space exploration, our pioneering spirit, and our unmatched ingenuity. The United States leadership in space exploration has benefited our country's national security and economy, strengthened our international relationships, advanced scientific discovery and technology, and vastly improved life here on Earth for practically everyone. American space exploration continues to inspire our next generation of pioneers and innovators. As such, we were deliberate in our effort to ensure that the sale of these coins would support efforts to grow the next generation of space explorers, while also honoring the courage and sacrifice of astronauts lost in the line of duty. This legislation would authorize the minting and sale in 2019 of a limited number of gold, silver, and clad coins in commemoration of the Apollo 11 mission. The coins would be domed with reverse featuring a representation of a spacesuit visor similar to the famous Buzz Aldrin on the moon photograph. After all taxpayer costs are satisfied, surcharges on the sale price of the coins will fund college scholarships for our future scientists, engineers, and astronauts, support educational initiatives that promote space exploration, honor astronauts who have fallen in the line of duty, and will memorialize this historical event through a stimulating new museum exhibit. Mr. Speaker, July 20th, 2019 will mark the 50th anniversary of the landing of the Eagle lunar module on the moon's surface. We remain the only country that has ever launched humans on the moon and returned them safely to Earth. This commemorative coin will celebrate what I feel is the most awe-inspiring engineering and technological deed of the 20th century. I urge your immediate support and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentlelady is recognized.
I rise to speak in favor of H.R. 2726, legislation that will authorize the issuance of gold, silver, and clad coins in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the first time in history that mankind successfully completed a crewed lunar landing. The Apollo 11 mission was a momentous occasion in its own right, but it was also a bittersweet achievement, as it also served as a reminder of the first Apollo mission, whose courage we will never forget. I'm pleased that in addition to honoring the Apollo 11 crew, the legislation before us today also recognizes the estimated 400,000 Americans who contributed to make possible the Apollo 11 mission. By calling on the Treasury Department to mint and issue coins in honor of Apollo 11, I hope that we will continue to remind all Americans of the boundlessness of what can be achieved when we set our sights high and quite literally aim for the moon. I also hope the coin minted as part of this legislation will show our young people just how exciting the fields of science, mathematics, and engineering can be and how critical they are to building a brighter future for all. By ensuring that a quarter of the proceeds raised will be made available to the Astronauts Scholarship Foundation to make college scholarships available for students pursuing degrees in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the legislation before us will make one step towards opening up this field to our best and brightest. The remaining surcharges associated with the sale of the coins will go towards the Smithsonian Institution's National Air and Space Museum Destination Moon exhibit, and provided to the Astronauts Memorial Foundation for maintenance of the memorial and to further educational initiatives. For this reason, I hope all members will support the legislation before us, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman is recognized.
Is there another speaker scheduled? I continue to reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like now to recognize Ms. Wilson, who has been a champion for this important legislation for 3 minutes.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you for yielding, Ranking Member Velasquez. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to express my full support for the passage of H.R. 2726, the Apollo 11 50th Anniversary Commemorative Coin Act. I want to thank my longtime friend and Florida colleague, Representative Posey, for his outstanding leadership as the sponsor of this bill. I am proud to have worked very closely with him to build bipartisan support for this legislation. I also want to thank Speaker Ryan, Chairman Hesseling, Ranking Member Waters, and the Financial Services Committee for their work to bring this bill to the floor. Mr. Speaker, the bill before us today authorizes the minting and distribution of commemorative coins to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first manned lunar landing mission, Apollo 11. These coins will honor Apollo 11 crew members Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil Armstrong, NASA scientists, engineers, and astronauts, and the other 400,000 Americans who made the mission possible. Surcharges from the sale of these coins will further our commitment to promote STEM education, space exploration, and science discovery. It will honor astronauts who lost their lives in service of our country and support the Destination Moon exhibit, which will feature exciting Apollo 11 artifacts. As a former elementary school principal and a leading advocate for STEM education, I'm very happy that this bill supports college scholarships for future scientists, engineers, and astronauts. Mr. Speaker, the Apollo 11 mission is a testament to our values as Americans. The mission's success reminded the world of our commitment to hard work, determination, and patriotism. When many questioned whether we could rise to the challenge of putting a man on the moon within a decade, we came together, worked our hardest, and achieved this daunting task in just 8 years. We left the world in awe and wonder. When our astronauts were 4 miles past the designated landing spot, and Mission Control told them that they had just 60 seconds of fuel left before the landing would have to be aborted, they did not panic. With unrelenting resolve, they managed to land on the moon with only 17 seconds to spare. When Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong planted our flag on the moon, millions of Americans felt a sense of pride that was exhilarating and inspiring. As members of Congress, we should look.
30 seconds.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. As members of Congress, we should look to Apollo 11 as inspiration as we work to tackle challenges that seem unsurmountable. I urge all of my colleagues to join me in voting for this bipartisan legislation, which has 298 co-sponsors and the support of Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, Apollo 11's 2 surviving astronauts. Thank you for yielding, Ranking Member Velasquez. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves.
The gentleman, may I inquire if the gentleman has any other?
I'm prepared to close. And
Okay. Well, I'm prepared to close. And basically, I will say that it's an honor for me to support this bill and this legislation. I ask all my colleagues to support it, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, again. We owe a debt of gratitude to the brave astronauts of the Apollo program, some of whom made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. We are beholden to the hundreds and thousands of men and women who, when challenged to go to the moon in this decade, accepted the challenge with a passion and a resolve that accomplished that which was thought unachievable. I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for their leadership and support of this legislation. And of course, finally, I want to express my sincere gratitude to my long-time friend and colleague from Florida, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, for her staunch support and her tireless efforts to ensure that this remarkable achievement is commemorated. Mr. Speaker, we have one opportunity to celebrate this historical event with a commemorative coin. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 2726 as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.